Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 4th of September, now it's 8 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day, in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment, and I will start with this report from TASS News Agency, according to which during the previous night Russian Air Force destroyed 4 Ukrainian speedboats with landing groups in the Black Sea, and I did share this information on my Telegram, and I will read it for you if I may. So on September 4th at night in the northwestern part of the Black Sea, Russian Black Sea Fleet naval aviation fighters destroyed 4 high-speed military boats manufactured by United States Willard Sea Force with the landing groups of armed forces of Ukraine heading towards Cape Tarkhankut on the Crimean coast, reports the Russian Ministry of Defense. And by the way, this Cape Tarkhankut is here on peninsula. Let me show you on this map. So this is it, by the way. This is the Cape Tarkhankut, and this is not the first time when Ukrainian forces are trying to conduct landing operation in Crimean direction, and I guess not the last attempt, but seems like Russian side was ready for such development, and the movement of Ukrainian amphibious force was detected early on, and 4 boats with amphibious force was neutralized. And also, by the way, we have reports here from RIA Novosti that during the previous night Russian armed forces did conducted yet another missile and drone strike on logistical and military infrastructure of Kiev regime, and this particular information is about strikes on logistical infrastructure in Izmail city on Danube River, which is here, by the way. So this is Izmail city, port city, right next to on Danube River, right next to Romania. And according to some other reports that I did read this morning, Russian side also conducted strikes in direction of Reni, which is also port city on Danube River, excuse me, on right next to Romanian borders. So Russian side is very keen, it seems like, to destroy portal infrastructure and logistical, in general, logistical infrastructure of Kiev regime in this area on Danube River. And I guess this is done not just to make sure that Ukrainian side is unable to use these ports to receive some military equipment from NATO member states, but also to make sure that this route, Danube River, and these ports would not be used by Kiev regime as some kind of alternative route to a grain deal. And by the way, before I continue with some other news, let me share with you some short summary of the situation on the battlefield. So I did spoke about this failed attempt of Ukrainian side to conduct landing operation on Crimea. I guess during the day we will learn some more information, and I will report about it on Telegram and in next updates. When it comes to Kherson region, we do have reports that Ukrainian side continues to increase its concentration of its forces on the right bank of the Dnieper River, which is a good enough indicator to make an assumption that Ukrainian forces are preparing mass crossing of the Dnieper River in at least in several directions, from Golaya Pristan on the southern side up to Novaya Kakhovka in the northern part of Dnieper bank in Kherson region. And well, as I mentioned yesterday, after all, my prediction about this mass crossing of Dnieper River, attempt of mass crossing of Dnieper River by Ukrainian forces may become true, and it may happen simultaneously with second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive in Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front, which is main axis of Ukrainian so-called counteroffensive on this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. But when it comes to Kherson region, at least for this moment, situation is under full operational and factual control of Russian forces. Nothing is happening that will influence overall situation on this sector, mainly artillery duels between the sides, recon operations, and constant fight for these small islands on the Dnieper River and delta of Dnieper River. When it comes to Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front line, of course, we have two main hotspots in these areas. Zaporozhye, when it comes to Zaporozhye region, it's of course Rabotino-Verbovo direction. And well, for last couple of days, we did see significant decrease of activity on part of Ukrainian offensive forces, and that may be indicator once again that Kiev regime is preparing second wave of counteroffensive, and in coming days we may see this second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive. Why I say in coming days? Because it's only a matter of time and rainy season will begin, and fields in this area will be unusable for any type of equipment. And as we see many times in videos from this area, it's steppes, by the way. It's mainly steppe area, and when it's rainy season, you cannot move here, even with special equipment. That just on the roads, and those roads, as we all know, are under full fire control of Russian forces. So we did see some decrease of activity in Zaporozhye sector of the front line, but I guess in coming days Ukrainian side will begin its second wave of counteroffensive, and we may see activization of Ukrainian side not just on Zaporozhye sector in this Orekhov area on south of Orekhov, but also on Vremyevsky salient on South Donetsk sector of the front line, because according to some reports, Ukrainian side basically finished regrouping of its forces in Vremyevsky salient area, and they are now ready to begin their second push in the direction of Azov Sea, let's say. Of course, they will fail. I have no doubts about it that this Ukrainian counteroffensive will fail. I was quite sure that entire this idea to conduct counteroffensive in direction of this land bridge, to cut this land bridge and reach Azov Sea, was suicidal on part of Ukrainian forces. And well, it's 3 months, by the way. Today is the 4th of September, so it's exactly 3 months since this Ukrainian counteroffensive began. And despite the fact that Ukrainian army lost 40 to 50,000 military personnel, maybe even more, perhaps even more, during these 3 months of fighting in this area, they did not even manage to reach first line of defense of Russian armed forces. And by the way, I know that Western media is reporting about not just first line of defense, but about second line of defense of Russian forces. Some Western media outlets are gone so crazy that they are reporting now that Ukrainian forces breach first line of defense and breach second line of defense, which is I mean, you tell me what level of craziness that is, that kind of reports. But that's what Western society, Western public that believes these Western propaganda outlets are fed. That's what they have been fed with, that type of propaganda, man. When in reality, Ukrainian forces did not even reach first line of defense. Some may argue that, you know what, in between Rabotino and Verbovo, Ukrainian forces, as we know, did move a little bit further, and they did possibly reach first line of defense, but I will argue with this. until Ukrainian side will take full control over the Rabotina and Verbova and Novopokropovka here, I mean, we cannot say that they did reach or breach first line of defense. But anyway, let's continue. When it comes to Donetsk direction, we do have, and right now, by the way, on Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front, it's a deadlock. Nothing is happening that will influence overall situation on these sectors of the front. Ukrainian side, despite many attempts to achieve any breakthroughs, are unable to basically achieve anything. They just demilitarizing themselves. That's what Ukrainian side did manage to achieve during previous 3 months of this so-called counteroffensive. But when it comes to Donetsk direction, we do have at least 2 quite surprising news, by the way. And first is about Marinka, this settlement here. And this settlement was under Russian control almost entirely. About 90% of the settlement was under Russian control for a long time now. But yesterday afternoon, some channels did begin reporting that Ukrainian forces left western parts of Marinka, and now the settlement is under full Russian control. Well, interesting development, but I did not see any photo or video confirmation of that. I did see videos of Russian tanks operating on these western parts, but that video confirms only fact that Russian tanks were operating in this area. That video not necessarily means that Russian side has established full control over this small pocket on the western part of western side of Marinka that was previously held by Ukrainian forces. But nevertheless, that's what some channels are reporting, that Marinka is under full Russian control. And I guess during the day today we will learn some more information, of course, and of course I will share this additional news on my Telegram page and in next updates. And when it comes to Donetsk direction, also we have a hotspot Krasnogorovka traditionally and Avdiivka, but at this moment nothing is happening that can be called breakthrough. It's local scale skirmishes and artillery duels between the sides, recon operations, and constant attempt from Russian side to distract the logistical lines that goes through settlements here in Donetsk direction that are used by Ukrainian forces, not just in this area, but also in South Donetsk sector of the front line. But overall, it's deadlock, I will say, when nothing is happening in the scale that will influence situation on the sector of the front. And by the way, we also have a very interesting news when it comes to southern flank of Bakhmut, because yesterday late evening some channels did begin reporting that Ukrainian forces did manage to enter Klishchevka settlement on the southern flank of Bakhmut, and even establish control over the central parts of Klishchevka. I was surprised to hear this kind of information, and I did begin looking for some confirmations of this information on many different channels, media outlets, but I find none. I just find none. And this morning, by the way, I did specially check Rybar's channel. Rybar is the biggest Russian military channel on Telegram, and he did make the update about yesterday's battles from 2nd to 3rd September. And he did spoke about Klishchevka here. That's it, by the way. And according to Rybar, Ukrainian forces did try to conduct 4 local scale offensives on Klishchevka, on positions of Russian forces in Klishchevka, on outskirts of Klishchevka. And according to Rybar, all these local scale offensives of Ukrainian forces were repelled by Russian forces, and Rybar did not say a single word that Ukrainian forces managed to enter Klishchevka or establish control over the central parts of this settlement. So it's quite confusing reports right now about this settlement. And well, let's wait some additional news to make some conclusions. It's like I said about Marinka, by the way. There are some reports that said that Marinka is under full Russian control now, but I need some additional news to make sure that this is concrete information. This is definitely factual information, and same goes for Klishchevka. I need some additional news because even though some channels report that Ukrainian forces did manage to enter Klishchevka and establish control over the central parts, I cannot believe this without factual confirmations. But that's quite significant developments anyway. And well, that's when it comes to Donetsk direction. Mainly, by the way, it's still operational pause on the southern part of Donetsk front and the northern part of Donetsk front around Bakhmut. And if we are talking about northern sectors of the front, even though Ukrainian forces are conducting these local-scale counteroffensives constantly, wave after wave, and trying to regain initiative at least in some areas, according to Russian sources, all these local-scale counteroffensives from Ukrainian side have been repealed, and if any side is improving their positions in the northern sectors, it's Russian militaries. And this is it for a short summary of the situation on the battlefield. And now let's go through some other news. And by the way, before I continue, let me highlight or point out, if I may, that this project with several channels on YouTube, Rumble, Telegram, and also Patreon exists only thanks to support of members of our community, and I will be immensely grateful if you will also consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in description box or in the pinned comment. That's been said, let's continue now. And TASS news agency is reporting that Russian armed forces neutralized two entire platoons of Ukrainian armed forces in Kupiansk direction. This is just what I said, exactly what I just said a couple of minutes ago. Ukrainian side is trying to conduct these local-scale offensive operations on the northern sectors constantly, wave after wave, but they are unable to achieve anything. They are demilitarizing themselves, basically. That's what is happening. And in this case, we have a report from Russian Defense Ministry that two Ukrainian platoons were basically destroyed during previous 24 hours on Kupiansk direction. Let's continue. And well, also about northern sectors of the front, according to this report, which is also based on Russian Defense Ministry, Russian Ka-52 and Mi-35 helicopter gunships basically wiped out Ukrainian strongholds in Krasny Liman direction. These helicopters are a menace for Ukrainian militaries. Ka-52 alligator become a star, if I may say this way, of this conflict. Mi-35 is a modernized version of Mi-24 crocodile. Also legendary helicopter, and well, they truly proved themselves during this conflict. And also Mi-28, by the way, I want to mention also Mi-28 helicopter gunship, which may not be as popular or effective as Ka-52, let's say, but also very formidable helicopter. And well, according to Russian Defense Ministry, Ka-52s and Mi-35s basically conduct strikes on Ukrainian strongholds in Krasny Liman direction and wiped out those strongholds with guided and unguided missiles and bombs. And next information is about, also by the way, very interesting. Kommersant newspaper is writing that Russian frontline bomber Su-34 did launch Kinzhal hypersonic missile towards one of the important targets in Ukraine. First time since Kinzhal was adopted by Russian armed forces, which is quite interesting because before this news we knew that only Russian MiG-31 interceptor was able to carry Kinzhal missiles and to conduct strikes with Kinzhal missiles, and now seems like Su-34 also was adapted to conduct strikes with this hypersonic weapon, which is a very significant development, by the way, because Su-34 is a frontline bomber, extremely maneuverable frontline bomber, and of course this plane does have more capabilities when it comes to low-level flight, for example, maneuverable flight than MiG-31. Anyway, let's continue, and this is of course breaking news kind of. RIA Novosti and many other media outlets are reporting that Zelensky made an announcement yesterday afternoon during his daily video speech that Reznikov, defense minister of Ukraine, Reznikov, will leave his position, and Rustem Umerov, head of fund of state property, will become a new defense minister of Ukraine. Well, I don't think anybody is surprised, because rumors that US, Washington, fed up with Reznikov, and Washington was demanding this individual to be removed from defense ministry, were circulating for a long time. Reznikov is one of the most corrupt individuals in Ukrainian government, and he is in close circle of Zelensky. Zelensky did not want to remove this corrupt individual from defense ministry, but as I said, Washington seems like had enough of these corrupt individuals, and well, they forced Zelensky to remove Reznikov from defense ministry. I guess this criminal will be appointed as ambassador in United Kingdom or somewhere in Western Europe. Let's continue. And TASS news agency is reporting that according to CBS, US media, Washington now is planning or looking for ways to steal 1 billion of Russian frozen assets and to give this billion to Zelensky's regime. Well, Europe is also working on such schemes when they want to steal Russian funds, Russian assets, frozen Russian assets, and give it to Ukraine, or just use it in any ways they please. But same time, they want to kind of characterize this stealing as some kind of legal stuff, and they are now coming up with some stupid ideas why this stealing is legal. The world is watching, by the way, and probably world is shocked with level of degradation of the so-called Western elites and states that they run, because they are ruining basically reputation of states that they run, and US is not exception. And they are now are openly Ministry of Justice, by the way, of US. Can you imagine? Ministry of Justice, structure that's supposed to be in defense of law and order, is now looking for some excuses to steal Russian billion and somehow make it legal. I mean, you tell me what this is, man. Very sad to see this level of degradation of Western states, by the way, and I don't know when this trend gonna stop. I truly don't know. as long as these so-called elites, this extremely corrupt, extremely inadequate so-called elites are running Western states, I don't think anything will change in a better way in the Western world, man. And it's sad really, but it is what it is. Let's continue now. And TASS news agency is reporting that Erdogan, during his visit in Russia, which will take place today, by the way, and he will meet Putin in Sochi, he will talk about grain deal, which is understandable. I did spoke about this many times before, that grain deal will be one of the major topics of discussions between Erdogan and Putin. But well, as I said quite a few times before, man, what Erdogan expects from Putin, I mean, what Putin gonna do? He did said many times, and other Russian officials did said many times, that grain deal is not a problem. Problem is that Western so-called elites are not fulfilling their obligations that they signed for in this grain deal. So once they will fulfill the obligation, this grain deal will resume its work. That's it, simple as that. So what else Erdogan is expecting from Putin to hear? I don't know, but well, according to reports in Russian media, Erdogan will introduce to Putin some new ideas that he was working on with together with the UN, and well, I guess he hopes for something, but yet again, by the way, we all know that UN has no influence over Western elites and Western states. We all know this. So I am extremely skeptical. I'm extremely skeptical that grain deal will be renewed anytime, resume anytime soon. But when it comes to UN's vision of dealing with this issue of grain deal, we have a report here that according to UN, works have to begin on let's say pipeline, ammonia pipeline Taliat-Odessa, that was destroyed by Ukrainian forces and or Kiev regime, and should be some price tag attached to this work, how much it will cost to rebuild that pipeline. Also, UN did make announcement that SWIFT will probably reconnect Rossellhozbank. But yet again, UN, this is wishful thinking from UN and from Erdogan also, by the way, because very same stuff Erdogan gonna says to Putin. When we already have, for example, information from about SWIFT that they are not planning to reconnect any Russian bank, including Rossellhozbank. And when it comes to this ammonia pipeline, by the way, which was a part of grain deal, Kiev regime destroyed that pipeline. And even if now works will begin to rebuild that damaged section, who will guarantee that very same regime, who will guarantee that Zelensky and his criminal associates will not blow up that pipeline again? So I'm skeptical about all this stuff, man. I don't see why Moscow should resume grain deal. I just don't see any reason for it. And after all, by the way, I remind you that just a few days ago, Foreign Minister of Russian Federation Sergei Lavrov did make a statement that Russia did begin works to deliver grain for free of charge to countries in need in Africa. And this is very important because, of course, Western so-called elites and propaganda outlets will try to use this grain deal to somehow demonize Russia even more, that, you know, because Russia is against grain deal, people are starving in the world, like it's Russian fault, man, when it's not. But, you know, anyway, Russia is delivering grain for free to countries in need. and Lavrov did made announcement about it just day before yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, let's continue. How long is this? 29 minutes. So I will go through headlines. So we have here quite interesting statement from Professor Philip Payson O'Brien. He's this professor is saying that NATO may collapse by 2025, and basically he's articulating that in case of change of power in power dynamics in Washington, NATO may lose its relativity. But let me read several sentences. So the return of Donald Trump to White House could spell the end for US military aid to Ukraine, leaving a divided Europe to foot Kiev's bills and ultimately ending the NATO pact. Academic Phillips Payson O'Brien claimed in the Atlantic, that's a media outlet, I guess, on Saturday. Opposition to arming Ukraine is now the position of Trump's supporter base, who O'Brien estimated account for 3/4 of the Republican Party's electorate. Trump has repeatedly vowed to use military aid as leverage to force Ukraine into peace talks with Russia within 24 hours of his inauguration, while his two nearest competitors for the GOP's nomination, Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy, have also discussed restricting support for Kyiv. Well, interesting and very logical, of course, very logical point of view. But me personally, I'm skeptical that NATO will collapse, even if Trump will become president of US. There may be some internal tensions in NATO, but that's because Washington once again will probably demand spending to be increased, military spending to be increased by NATO, European NATO members. But I don't think NATO will collapse, by the way. Trump already was president one term, and well, we did not see NATO collapsing, isn't it? We did see some tensions internal, but that's it. So I don't see NATO collapsing anytime soon. Moreover, most likely military alliances that US is involved in will even grow. And in this case, I'm talking about AUKUS, which is southeastern NATO, let's say. Just recently, I did report that London, and I guess Washington also now, are trying to somehow bring into AUKUS Japan and South Korea. And that may happen. That may happen. And they also can force some states in Southeast Asia to join AUKUS that have some difficult relationships with China. Washington and London can play on that kind of notes. But anyway, let's continue. Article itself is interesting, of course, but I don't believe NATO will collapse anytime soon. Let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that Finance Minister of Germany, Christian Lindner, did spoke about military deliveries and military support from Germany to Zelensky and his associates, and he said that even though he is all for supporting Ukraine militarily, Germany, according to him, Germany should think about its own defense also, while discussing topic of deliveries of weapons to Kyiv regime, including Taurus long-range missiles. And by the way, nowadays, as we know, at least recent months, recent 3-4 weeks, topic of German cruise missiles, Taurus long-range cruise missiles, is quite active in media and blogosphere. And well, unfortunately, I think Berlin will be forced to deliver these missiles to Zelensky and his associates, which will be extreme level of escalation of relationships with Russia, and a huge mistake on part of Berlin. But unfortunately, I don't think adequacy will prevail when it comes to current leadership of Germany. There is no adequate people in German government right now, once again, unfortunately. So it's only a matter of time when these missiles will be delivered to, and some other weapons also, by the way, will be delivered to Kyiv regime. But what is interesting, that even these crazy individuals that are running and ruining Germany right now do realize that Germany is losing its defense capacities, defense capabilities. That's how much weapons they already sent to Ukraine. And that's why I wanted to highlight this news. Otherwise, of course, it's only a matter of time and matter of one call from US Embassy in Germany to Scholz, and the very same day, very same hour, this Scholz Chancellor of Germany, will come out and make statement that they did begun deliveries of Taurus missiles. We all know the drill. That's usual stuff when it comes to these colonies of Washington and London in Europe. Which is very unfortunate, by the way. I don't really understand why societies in Western, in European states are coping with this position of being colony of Washington and London. Why they are okay with this? How that even possible, for God's sake? But you know, it is what it is. Let's continue. And TASS news agency is reporting that Iran did receive first bunch of Russian Yak 130 planes, training planes. And by the way, I did share on my Telegram this information. Let me find it. I did share not just video, but also video footage of that. That's it, by the way. So this is plane itself. That's how it looks. This is training plane, Yak 130. And what is important, that these planes usually used to train pilots for Su-30 and Su-35, if I'm not mistaken. So this is, I guess, deliveries of these planes to Iran, quite a good indicator, I guess, that in foreseeable future, Iran will receive Russian Su-35 fighter jets, as it was discussed in media many times before, that there was some contract between Iran and Russia on deliveries of Su-35 fighter jets. Maybe those fighter jets already are in Iran, that's a possibility. Maybe not, but deliveries of Yak 130 definitely indicates that Iranian pilots are beginning the training for Su-35s. Good news for Iran. Good news for Iran and Iran's Air Force, which is definitely in need of modern fighter jets, because best fighter Iran has right now is US-made F-14 Tomcat, legendary plane. You all are familiar with the F-14. These planes were filmed in Top Gun movie. And Iran, by the way, surprisingly, do have a bunch of F-14s in its inventory. And those planes are best ones at this point, I guess. in Iranian Air Force, and these planes are in Iran since the Shah era. And well, Iranian engineer did manage to keep these planes working for so many decades. So Su-35, Russian Su-35 fighter jets will definitely be in demand in Iran, and will increase capabilities of Iranian Air Force significantly. Let's continue. How long is this video? 40 minutes, man. Okay, just the headlines. So RT is reporting that European Central Bank expects the current slowdown in the Eurozone economy to help bring down inflation in the region. That's one more way to justify their wages from officials of central bank. They are coming up with this crazy statement now that, well, slowdown of economy in Eurozone is good for, to fight inflation. Wow, what idiots, man. They can, with this logic, they can destroy entire economy of Europe. That's what they are doing, really, step by step. But they can destroy entire economy, and there will be no inflation whatsoever, because there will be no economy. There will be nothing to sell or buy. What argument is that? That slowdown of economy will, improve situation with inflation. But anyway, RT is reporting that Brazil posts record oil and gas production. Brazil is becoming significant player on the oil market, by the way, and well, this trend will continue. This trend will continue, I guess. Let me read several sentences. So, oil and gas production in Brazil reached a record level for a single month in July, beating the previous record set in June. Oil regulator ANP revealed this week output totaled 4.48 million barrels of oil equivalent per day last month, and data showed, and crude production alone rise by 18.6% on a yearly basis to 3.51 million barrels per day. That's big numbers. That's big numbers, by the way. So yes, Brazil is becoming a significant player on the oil market, undoubtedly. And this is going to be last news for today's update. Western so-called elites are looking now for ways to ban Russian diamonds. Fair, good luck with that. They did not learn, isn't it? They are unable to learn anything, really. They did put price tag on Russian oil, and the entire world is laughing. They now gonna put some price tag on, or price ceiling on Russian diamonds, or what are they doing? These so-called elites of the West, man. Russian diamonds are in demand and will be in demand, no matter what Western so-called elites gonna say or do. And why they are discrediting themselves with such a crazy moves, man? How long this madness gonna continue? That's a question. All these sanctions, price ceilings, and this craziness have to end, man. But anyway, this is it for now. Hopefully, you will find this update interesting. And if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. That will significantly increase my chances probably to reach wider audience. And if you think this channel is interesting, useful, has some potential, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page, on which I do upload extra content on a regular basis. This is it for now. Have a great day, have a successful new week, and take care. See you soon.